Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Seekers of the Supernatural. I'm your moderator, Tony Spera. Tonight we have two special guests with us, along with your hosts, Ed and Lorraine Warren. Tonight we have Dr. Joe KLIMEK and Jennifer Benever, who are psychic investigators who will be talking about two haunted cases that are active right now as we speak. What I'd like to do is start out with Ed, if I may, and ask Ed about the house that is in Trumbull, Connecticut.
Trumbull, Connecticut, yeah. This is a very interesting case in that there's three young ladies that live there and the mother. And it seems that a murder was committed many years ago. Probably 35, 40 years ago. And what they see is the apparition or ghost of a young girl. And the mother has been seen that she's one time been in the bedroom and she turned around, she felt there was a presence there. And here's this girl, she's looking at her, she's around 15 years old, and she's smiling and she's very happy. And then she just disappeared. Well, the mother never said anything about this. And the next sighting was in the garden. She was working out in her garden and she felt a presence again. She turned around and here's this young girl again looking at her and looking very happy. And then she just disappeared. Now this is broad daylight. This is very, very unusual. This is an outdoor spirit, and we call those lepkes, outdoors. So the next sighting was one of the daughters, a young girl, I guess she was around 18. She was in her bedroom, she was puttering around, doing homework or something, and all of a sudden she felt a presence. And she looked around and here's that same girl. And she's looking at her, looking very happy, smiling, and then she actually walked over and sat on the bed. And I believe there was a conversation between them.
There was a conversation between the two of them, and then this dark form, who we believe to be the person who had perpetrated it, of this man, and the girl ran and hid in what was at that time a closet, but is no longer a closet today, Tony. Now, when we went to the house, we tried something different. Ed said, I'd like to try something different in this house. Instead of commanding the spirits, in God's name to reveal themselves, let's try to do it in a much more gentle manner. Now, I don't know why he chose this particular house.
I was thinking to myself, if I was a spirit and somebody walked in and I didn't know who this person was, and they start screaming, in the name of Jesus Christ, get out of this house, leave now, don't ever come back, I wouldn't feel very welcome, even if I was an earthbound spirit. I'd stay hidden. So I thought what we should do is to treat the spirit as though we're welcoming in to have a conversation with us, and that's what you did.
And that is exactly. Ed played this music, which was very gentle, very low.
What kind of music?
Type of music, like fairy
classical music.
Like a classical music.
Spirits like this type of thing. You know, the emotions are everything. So if you make the spirit welcome, they're going to come in. It's just like if somebody walked in here right now, if it was somebody you didn't like, you wouldn't stay here too long. But if it's somebody you like, you'll stay around, have conversation. Spirits don't change. People don't change. Their emotions don't change. So we wanted to make a friendly atmosphere for this young girl or the man to come into, and then we could communicate with them.
Now, what had happened then at this time, Tony, was that Joe was taking film. He was taking video footage. Now, we had noticed, both Jennifer and I and one of the other people, one of the other researchers who were with us, noticed that one particular area of this house was not a comfortable area.
I just wanted to add this, that we decided to go back there, and Joe and Jennifer and a couple of other people came as investigators from the New England Society for Psychic Research, and we had cameras all set up, we had recorders all set up, and the idea was to try and get some film showing ghostly phenomena, such as electromagnetic energy or ghost globules, or maybe even a face or a full figure. So this is why Joe and Jennifer were there.
Yes.
Joe,
yeah, let him give.
What did you experience in that house?
I didn't experience much. I'm the cameraman and the audio man
Right.
in many instances, but in that house, I think that one of the most striking things to me was when you were playing that music, and Lorraine and Jennifer were sitting at the table.
Mm-hmm.
The two of them, at the same time,
Yeah, we were-
seemed to be
We were
in
in
the
sync
same
with each
place,
other.
but in sync with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But you were coming to the house from one direction, and you were coming to the house from the other direction,
Mm-hmm.
and talking about what you were seeing and what you were experiencing. And I
And
guess
it was really phenomenal. That does not happen to me that often.
In other words, you and Jennifer were on the same wavelength? in
We
other
were
words?
What were you
exactly-
seeing, Jennifer?
I was approaching, Lorraine had begun by talking about the house back many years ago when this incident occurred, and all of a sudden I found myself traveling along with this young girl who was coming through the fields toward the house.
This
And
is clairvoyantly now.
this is clairvoyantly, and Lorraine was while I'm thinking this and experiencing this, Lorraine is talking about the back of the house, and I was actually approaching the house from the side. When this girl, whom I was traveling with, reached the back of the house, all of a sudden, Lorraine and I were looking at exactly the same things.
It was really amazing. First of all, the area that Joe was in was a family room. You step down a small step out of the kitchen area. There's sliders, and you look out onto beautiful lawns, absolutely beautiful lawns, and beautiful manicured area. But that is not how I was seeing it. It was all overgrown.
Now you were seeing it back when, right?
Back when there was a dilapidated porch. I had the strong smell of whiskey. Very, very strong smell.
Whiskey?
Ed, you weren't drinking again, were you?
Very strong smell of
I just like
whiskey.
to add that
Well, I
Ed
just
doesn't
wanted to
drink at all.
Ed
tell the
doesn't
folks
drink at
back
all.
that what Lorraine is doing is going back in time. We call this here retrocognitive
Cognitive.
experiences.
Now, at this point, I can see a dog. And the dog had spots on him. And he was chained to a doghouse. And there were men on the porch. And as this girl is walking through this backyard, I hear chickens. I can hear chickens, the sound of chickens. And then we see her walking. Now, she avoids this porch where these men are. She totally avoids that. And she goes in the back of the yard. And I said, "Where's the hatchway?" And they said, "There is no hatchway." Well, if you're looking at something, you know there's a hatchway there.
Did you see the hatchway
I saw the
Jennifer?
hatchway also, yes.
You did.
I was very surprised when they said there was no hatchway.
Yes.
there was not one now, but
there
there was
was.
one then.
Then.
And the inners of the hatchway are still intact.
Well, how old is this house?
I imagine about 50-some years.
Yeah,
Old.
it's around 50, 60 years old.
And when did the phenomena really begin? When did it start?
Well, when there is any type of upset in a home, and there had been upset in this home, emotional upset, and also there had been communication, Tony. There had been doors open through Ouija
That's what I
boards.
was wondering.
But unlike most times, we do not condone the use of Ouija boards. We know that people fooling with Ouija boards open doors that can never be closed, and it just boomerangs on them. But in this particular case, as we watched this girl go down into that hatchway, it was horrible. Both Jennifer and I, at that point together, said, we cannot go any further. We could not watch this any longer. And then there was a boy, and the boy was 8 years old. Now that girl was coming over to care for that boy, and he was in like a, I don't know what you'd call it, it's a canning area now, like a canning closet.
coal cellar.
Oh,
Like a coal
where they
cellar.
put up vegetables and things like that?
Exactly.
Yes. And the boy had communicated on the Ouija board with them regarding what he witnessed, which was this crime. And when Joe took photographs, you have photographs that were taken
I do have
on
some
that
photographs.
property.
Yes.
There's 3 of them, Tony. One of them actually shows, yes, that is incredible.
All right, we do have
That's-
some large photographs here that I'd like to show, if I could. You could explain, Lorraine, if you'd like, what this
Well, that's
photograph is
the
of.
electromagnetic energy that a spirit will gather to manifest itself. And what it's creating here is what we call a psychic light rod. You notice that the edges are all kind of fuzzy there. This
Okay.
is the energy that we try to pick up on cameras when we go into a haunted house. Sometimes they look like this, sometimes like balls of light, etc.
Now,
The second
That's
one is-
Lorraine coming through the door of what was the hatchway
that was
into
the hatch,
that cold cellar.
which is where the tragedy had occurred.
We have another shot. I guess it's pretty
Right.
similar.
It's similar, but it was, I'm outside the door there,
I
Tony.
remember at night, these would come out much clearer. We have a small picture here outside the house which shows a lot of what we refer to as ghost globules.
Okay.
Now, these ghost globules will many times when they appear in a house, appear in the bedroom, it'll then go into a cigar shape, and then you will see the ghost or the apparition.
Okay, I can see it.
But this
See,
is also
oh, yes,
those
you do see that.
Globules. There
Yeah,
was
they
little
look like
round,
sort of like
white-
transparent moons.
And by the way, that little shed, which is a storage shed now, was a chicken coop.
It was?
Yes.
Chicken coop, right?
Yes, it was, Tony. Now,
But we're still working on this case, and
Still an active
we'll-
case.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll let our viewers out there know what happens at a later date. But the house that I'm really, really interested in
but
right now.
before we go into that other case, I want Joe to tell what the professional photographer who processed this film said to him.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
But the people who processed that and the professionals who examined it said that there is no way you can explain that photograph away by a light leak or by a technical problem with the development of the film.
Sure.
If there were a light leak, you would see the extension of that light to the edge of the negative, and it does not extend to the edge of the negative. It's been said to me by people who do this all the time that there is no explanation for that
Right.
other than some kind of energy which is being picked up by the silver crystals in the film.
Right.
Wow.
The camera doesn't lie.
No,
What it
that's
sees, it picks up. You know, it's an impartial witness, and that's what I like about psychic photographs. But this other house that we're going to be talking about, we've been working on this, just a little over a year. Unfortunately, we haven't been successful. It has to do with an elderly woman. She's a widow. Her husband died just about a little over a year ago. And just before he died, she started hearing raps and knocks in the kitchen, in the living room, especially in the bedroom, in the back of her bed. And the bed would shake. And then she would hear her name being called out, Nellie, Nellie, Nellie. And this would wake her up out of a deep sleep. Then there was the movement of objects, and she'd hear things going on in the kitchen. She'd go out there. Now, she's an elderly woman. She's all by herself. She lives in the country, and she becomes very frightened. So we went out there, and we conducted an investigation, but this was at the time that I had to go into a hospital for an operation myself. So we kind of put it off until I got back. And this woman, frightened out of her wits, very religiously oriented person. In fact, she has crucifixes and religious pictures, holy
Statues.
water, statues all over the house. But sometimes a person can be too religious. This lady actually was the model for the Blessed Mother way back in 1937 on one of these floats. Devils don't like that. And this might be a test of her faith. I think that's about what it is, because we've tried exorcisms, masses, blessings, self-immunization. We've tried communication in many forms to find out what's going on. The physical attacks on the lady are quite bad too. She's been picked up and thrown out of a chair. She's been slapped. She's been punched. She's been in bed and thrown out of the bed, and it's just a horrendous thing. So when we went there, of course, I myself had bad experience one day when I went into the house. I thought that she had called me. It was not her, and this is a phantom phone call, as we call it. I went over there. It was around 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. It was a very, very snowy day. It was last winter. And I noticed that the porch door was open, which she never leaves open. I walked in, and it was the parlor door was open. I walked in there, and I yelled out, "Nellie, Nellie, are you here?" And I heard a voice say, "Yes, Ed, I'm in here." It was Nellie's voice.
You heard that voice?
It was Nellie's voice.
Okay.
Okay. This comes from what we call a materialized larynx, or telepathically. Now, I walked in, and there's a radio room. Her husband was a radio ham, just off to the left in a small hallway. Then off to the right is where her bedroom is and the bathroom. Well, the door was open in the bathroom, or in the radio room, which she never leaves open. And I heard her calling me again. "I'm in here, Ed." I walked past the bathroom, but the door was locked in her bedroom. I went to open, it was locked. And I said, "Nellie, are you in there?" And I heard a click, as though somebody had unlocked the door. And opened the door, but her form was lying in a bed. Now, this is a very small room. Her bed is still there, and a hospital bed is alongside of hers. And this was the bed that her husband died in, but she still keeps it there. And I seen what I thought was her lying in the bed. She was turned over on her side. She has very dark hair, and I could see the hair sticking out from the blankets. And I said, "Nellie, are you sick?" There was no response. I said, "Nellie, are you sick?" Then there was this overwhelming stench of rotting meat or something dead. Immediately I was getting the message. This thing turned around and looked at me, and it had a face that looked like it was parchment, kind of yellowish and all crackled. It was not Nellie.
But then you
And
said...
I commanded in the name of Jesus Christ what was there to leave and go back to where it came from. I made the sign of the cross. With that, the blankets just sank right
The
down.
blankets sank flat.
Now, people think that we don't get shook up in these things. Remember, I'm in this house, alone, in that house, looking at this, and I know what can happen. See, we probably get more frightened than the average person because we know what can happen. They don't.
Exactly.
And I started out of there, and I heard, "Ed, I'm down here. I'm down here." And it was Nellie's voice. And I thought, well, where is she now? And it was coming from the cellar. I started toward the cellar, and all of a sudden something said, no, that's not Nellie down there. And I just turned around and went out the door and locked the door.
Was Nellie home?
No, Nellie was not home. It was not Nellie who called me and told me to come to the house. If anybody's ever read Phone Calls from the Dead, you can pick up a phone and you'll hear a deceased person on the other side of that phone call. And this happens many times. It happened with some very dear friends of ours. Pick up the phone, it's been ringing, and you're talking to somebody who died. But remember, this comes from a materialized larynx. Now, what about the experiences that both of you had there?
Yeah,
That was
they
quite...
really had horrendous.
And we spent 2 nights in that house with several other investigators. The first night we were there, most of the activity that occurred took place in that same bedroom where you saw that
Right.
that apparition. And that night we had Jennifer was on one bed, another investigator, a female investigator, was on the other bed, and I was sitting at the bottom end of the bed. And we were talking about the spirit. We were asking whether it would be coming and whether it would approach us.
See, they were giving recognition.
And the 2 women who are sensitive began seeing things and feeling things. And
What did you see, Jennifer?
Well, we saw lights, mainly.
Ghost lights.
A lot of
Ghost lights, lots of ghost lights coming in the top of the door, and
Were they like streaming in? Were they like
they were
rays of light?
pouring in from the top half, just pouring in.
Pouring
Lights
in.
pouring in, and they would go right to the ceiling and swirl around.
Were they
And
colors? Were there
were
colors?
beautiful colors, pink and blue and yellow and green. They were mesmerizing.
They were transfixed. Both women who saw these were just transfixed. They were astounded at the beauty. And then something happened where the woman on the other bed said, "They're coming at me. I can't see." And she started pushing away things from her eyes. So I got up from the bed and I tried to help her. When I did get up off the bed to try to help her, Jennifer,
I looked down at my leg, my left leg, and it jerked once. And I looked down and I thought, oh, I must be more nervous than I think. And I'm, of course, watching Joe help the other investigator who's calling out for help. And all of a sudden, my other leg started to jerk around, and I thought I maybe should say something, but they were so busy I didn't want to bother them. Well, by the time I got their attention, I was literally being lifted off the bed and pounded down, and it hurt a lot. My muscles were contracting, and I was in a lot of pain, and I called for Joe to please come back and help, and he ran across the room, very small room, and held my ankles down, and I easily was able to lift his arms off the bed with my feet. Then he put his forearms on my knees, and I was able to easily lift him right off the floor and his arms right off.
Now, were you doing that consciously?
No, I could not control any movement below my waist.
Your whole body was just taken over by
My
something.
body was taken over by something, and I was literally bouncing up and down on the bed, and he was trying to keep me on the bed so I wouldn't fall on the floor.
So what'd you do about that,
And
Joe?
she was scared. I mean, so was
I was yelling, "Do something! Do something!"
And the other investigator couldn't see anything. So
She was no help.
I couldn't hold her on the bed, and then suddenly I felt something wet in my back pocket. And then I remembered the holy water that I had. I hadn't thought of it before that. I pulled out the holy water, took it out, sprinkled it all over Jennifer, and said, "In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave." And it stopped.
Stop.
It just stopped.
It just stopped.
See, now that's exactly what Ed did, but you didn't have holy water
No.
when you were doing that.
I have to say that, you know, when you use the holy water in the name of Christ, it's really your faith, you know, that's being tested here, and your faith is what's stopping all of this demonic activity. And this is demonic activity. This lady's brother was a priest. He was retired after 42 years at a parish in Pennsylvania, and super religious people. And again, people are probably saying out there, my God, why would the Lord let this woman suffer like this? Well, sometimes, you know, these people are tested. Their faith is tested. And perhaps maybe millions of people will hear about it through our society. And when people hear about cases like this, the same things are happening to them. But they think, I must be going mad. I must be going crazy. But yet, look at these people are talking here about something that happened to me. So if I contact them, maybe they can help me.
And you know that the thing with this lady is that she's remains so much in control, or at least tries to remain in control.
Very strong person.
But she woke me one night at 3 o'clock in the morning, and when I realized it was a legitimate call, not some mentally troubled person, because a lot of times that will happen, I sat right up in bed, because otherwise you don't feel like you're alert.
Right.
And when I sat right up in bed, she said, "Oh, Lorraine, I am so scared. I am just so scared. It's terrible." She said, "This huge thing manifested right next to my bed." Now, this is the thing that's amazing.
What did it look like?
She said it was just very large and very dark. Now, if you look at photographs that have been taken by researchers who have gone in there, one man in particular who's in the military and teaches sonar to officers, he took 2 photographs, and in the photographs, in one corner of this small bedroom, you see this dark shadow, and on the other end of the bedroom, where the door is, on the side of the door, you see this dark thing again.
Another, we call these shadow ghosts. Many times they'll appear as a monk-like figure, maybe 6 foot, 6.5 foot high.
And that's what was found, that was there the other night.
The other night.
The other night.
That's what preceded the episode the other night. There were 4 of us in that room, the same room. There were a woman on each bed and a man sitting on the bottom of each bed. And the 2 that were on the bed where they could see the hallway said, "My God, there's a cloaked, hooded figure standing in the hallway."
Yep, that's...
And it's coming toward us. And so as they were looking at it, and I was leaning around, Jennifer, who was watching all of the lights coming into the room, leaned over the edge of the bed and said, "Oh, look at all the beautiful lights
The
again."
entire bed that I was on was just surrounded by these beautiful lights. I had no interest in looking out the hallway.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Wow.
Then, as she was alertly saying, "Oh, this is beautiful," she suddenly said, "I'm really tired and sleepy," and just slumped.
Really?
Right down
She just
onto
So
slumped
why would
right-
that? Why would that be, Ed? Why would
Trance. Jennifer
Trance.
went into a trance. I believe that if Joe did not use the holy water and bring her out of it, take her outside, that she would have went deeper and deeper into
Into
a
a trance
trance,
state.
and this spirit would have came through Jennifer.
Now, this spirit is something that I communicated with, but I don't know that it's the same spirit that was
Do you
there.
think there's more than one spirit in that
Yeah,
house?
Yes.
definitely more than one. I think the husband's spirit comes there to protect Nellie, but there's something demonic that is constantly attacking this poor woman. You know, she's been to Lourdes, she's been to Fatima, she's been to all the shrines that ever were
Yes.
in Europe, in the United States. She's not a wealthy woman, but she managed to get to these places through church groups. Now, it's my thought again that she is one of the chosen ones. Why do I say chosen? Well, look at us. We're sitting here talking about this case. There's hundreds of thousands of people that are going to hear about it
True.
because of Nellie and what she suffered.
Yes.
And what the story is here, the message is that God exists, but also that the devil exists.
Now, I know Joe had something else, another point you were going to make, Joe, and I think I broke your train of thought.
Well, one of the things I was going to say was that Jennifer finally did wake up after sprinkling holy water on her, and the first thing she said when she came out of it was, "What are you doing to me?" But it wasn't really
Her
her
voice.
voice.
Really?
I did manage to get her up, and we helped her out, and not until she got outside of the house.
True. Yes, I have no memory. The last thing I remember is feeling this incredible tiredness coming over me and just feeling I had to lay down. And the next thing I remember is standing outside in my bare feet and saying, "What happened? Why are we out here?"
So Ed, how do you think we could resolve this case? How's it going to be resolved?
Well, I think that, you know, God in his great mercy will allow us to find the road down that we're going to free this woman from these attacks. And I believe that Jennifer here is a deep trance medium, because on a couple of occasions, on cases that we've been involved with, you started to drift off. I've been watching you. And that would go deeper than what Lorraine is. Lorraine is a light trance medium. You're going to be a deep trance medium. That is, if you want to be, Jennifer.
Congratulations,
I have a
Jennifer.
choice?
Yeah, really.
Do I have a choice?
We're just about out of time, and I hope that the viewers at home would try to pray, anybody who believes in God, pray for this woman and these two women, the Trumbull case and the Huntington case, because prayer does have substance. Prayers are listened to, I believe, and prayers are answered. So, Lorraine, anyone who wants to contact you would write you at
Yes.
P.O. Box 41
And we do get some beautiful mail, Tony,
in Monroe,
in Monroe. Post
06468, P.O. Box 41. We're just about out of time, and I hope you enjoyed tonight's program, ladies and gentlemen. For Dr. Joe KLIMEK, Jennifer Benever, Ed and Lorraine, I'm Tony Spera. Good night.